to halt immigration enforcement raids in the Houston area. We'll discuss the details of this lawsuit and more of today's top headlines. I'm Celestia Sherman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with Bishop James Dixon II, president of the NAACP Houston chapter, about the current issues affecting the organization.
Plus, we'll also learn about the German Cultural Institute, the Goethe-Institut, with Sandy Schwalen, program coordinator of their Houston branch.
And as always, we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text us 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org and clicking the purple box.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. The House Oversight Committee attempted to question Ghislaine Maxwell today about her time with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The hearing was virtual since she's serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. Committee Chairman James Comer says she wouldn't talk.
As expected, Ghislaine Maxwell took the fifth and refused to answer any questions. This obviously is very disappointing. We had many questions to ask about the crimes she and Epstein committed, as well as questions about potential co-conspirators. We sincerely want to get to the truth to the American people and justice for the survivors. That's what this investigation is about.
Comer says the hearings into Epstein will continue. He says the questioning of former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will be made public. The Clintons are asking to testify publicly rather than be deposed in private. Congress has 5 days left to agree on a budget for the Department of Homeland Security. NPR's Luke Garrett reports.
The government may be heading toward another partial shutdown. Top Democrats sent their DHS demands to the White House last week, but say they've received no response. Here's House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
The ball is in the court right now of the Republicans.
Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are withholding their party's support for DHS funding after its agents shot and killed 2 U.S. citizens. GOP Representative Tony Gonzalez told CBS News the Hispanic vote is at stake for the Republican Party.
If we want to keep that long term, we do have to make a shift, not necessarily in policy, but in communication.
This week, the House and Senate will hold oversight hearings on the 2 DHS killings in Minnesota. Luke Garrett, NPR News, Washington.
The Israeli cabinet has approved a series of measures to strengthen Israeli control in the occupied West Bank and to weaken the powers of the Palestinian Authority. NPR's Daniel Estrin has more from Tel Aviv.
The new measures would allow the Israeli government and settlers to more easily purchase real estate in the West Bank. A cabinet minister who announced the decision said this would ensure land reserves for future Jewish settlement. The new measures would also grant Israeli authorities power to carry out demolitions in Palestinian cities administered by the Palestinian Authority. And Israel would have more control over 2 ancient religious sites. Jordan and Egypt condemned the move and warned against Israeli annexation of territory where Palestinians want a sovereign state. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to meet President Trump on Wednesday at the White House to discuss Iran negotiations. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Vice President J.D. Vance is visiting Armenia and Azerbaijan on a 3-day trip. He's seeking to advance a U.S. brokered deal to end the conflict between the former Soviet republics. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. A man is in critical condition right now after police say he was shot early yesterday outside a Washington Avenue nightclub. KHOU reports officers were called to the scene in the early morning hours. Bystanders say that the 2 men were fighting outside of a club. One of them pulled a gun on the other. The shooter left the scene, and police are actively looking for him. This happened just a few hours after the city's new nightclub task force conducted inspections in the area, which has seen violence repeatedly. Police have also started targeting illegal and unpermitted clubs to try and crack down on crime. The Public Utility Commission of Texas will launch a study of data center water usage. State Representative Armando Vélez is a Democrat representing North Harris County. He's behind the commission's study of data center water usage.
And it's important that we know and have transparency about how much water is being used and how much energy is being used by these large-scale emergency technology centers.
The commission will survey data centers across the state to determine their usage of water. In sports, the Rockets beat the Oklahoma City Thunder over the weekend, 112-106. It's a big win for Houston, beating the team that won the NBA title last year. Houston outscored Oklahoma City by 12 points in the third quarter. They now have 32 wins, 19 losses on the year. They're currently in fourth place in the Western Conference. Checking your weather, partly sunny and breezy today. We'll hit a high of 80. Mostly cloudy overnight with a low around 62, south winds to 10 miles an hour. Patchy fog come the morning hours, becoming partly cloudy with a high near 77. Right now, partly cloudy, 66 degrees on the UH campus. Get the whole story. For more news and information, go to houstonpublicmedia.org. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Wallace Foundation, an independent, nonpartisan research foundation collaborating with grantees and partners in the arts, school leadership, and youth development. More at wallacefoundation.org. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello, Houston.
Hello, Celeste.
Hello, Frank. Good morning.
Two out of three today.
Yes, February 9th. And we want to thank you for joining us today, whether you're tuning in at 88.7 or you are joining us on YouTube.
Lots of people already on YouTube.
Yes, I'm sure they want to know. What were your thoughts?
About?
Super Bowl.
I know. We're going to have a big discussion in our next hour.
Yes.
You know what? As a football game, it was the most boring game I've ever watched.
Same.
I mean, I always say, if you don't believe in miracles, watch sports.
Right.
Last night did not have any miracles.
It was pretty. It was a sleeper. It was a sleeper.
It was a yawn.
Sleepy.
But you know, when you have the two best teams playing against each other, then they're both going to be good at what they do, and it's going to be hard to get around that.
Yes.
So it tends to make for Super Bowl games by and large aren't like, oh wow, did you see that?
Right.
So that didn't surprise me. And of course, we'll talk about Bad Bunny, who I thought was stupendous.
Stupendous.
I thought he was just terrific.
Yes,
and I thought his message was wonderful and a message we need right now.
So many thoughts.
Yes.
So many thoughts. I have one. I agree. The Benito Bowl was fabulous.
Your grandmother's from Puerto Rico.
My grandmother is from Puerto Rico. Liana Gonzalez. That's
right. Is she still living?
No, she passed away a few years ago. But I actually went to Puerto Rico as a gift from my dad's side of the family. His cousin Helen gifted Dan and I. She has a house in Puerto Rico as for our honeymoon. And
nice.
I got to visit my grandmother's brother and her sister, who both have now passed, but really learn about that side of my family. And so last night, to watch not just Puerto Rico on the main stage, but so many Latin American countries. He mentioned Panama. He mentioned the United States,
all the Americans,
Canada,
all Central, North, and South America.
It was a moment of pride, I think, for so many, just Americans, but also Latinos specifically, that are multicultural. We're not monochromatic, and so to see that in Mexico. It was really incredible. But I can't wait to talk more about it. We're going to dive into it.
We always say, I'm an American, but we forget you can be a North American, a Central American, or South American.
Right.
Because United Statesian just doesn't have a ring to it, does it? So we have a tendency just to say, I'm an American, but it's sort of offensive to other Americans who are South American and Central American, and even Canadians are North American. So we've kind of taken that, like, no, we're the real Americans.
Right. Well, I think that's the big question, right? Is what does it mean to be American?
Right.
What kind of American are you?
Well, you should be a proud one.
Yes.
But you should also be one that is willing to listen to other people.
I am very, very proud to be, have born in this country. And, my kids are blonde, blue-eyed. And it's one of those things where I'll never forget taking Philip. I was working out at the YMCA, and I took him to the children's area. And the ladies spoke Spanish. And Philip got there, and he said something to them in Spanish. And they were like, creo que este güerito habla español. And they were like, we think this little white kid speaks Spanish. So you better be careful what you say, because you never know. You never know.
We're already getting personally. I thought the game was great, but even better was Bad Bunny's performance. All right, Noah. It's from Noah Espinoza. All right, we're going to talk about that at 12 o'clock at the top of the next hour. So for now, by the way, the weather is gorgeous. Look at that shot of the city. We can put it behind me, but I'm looking at it at our other monitor.
All weekend, Frank.
A great weekend, a stellar weekend. And if people had outdoor Super Bowl parties, I bet they were loving it. Mine was indoor. We just sat indoors and watched it. But yes, and this week ahead, it's going to be really nice. Highs of 80, lows of 60, fog in the morning, like we had Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So we'll see some fog in the morning, but that'll burn off. Be a nice day.
Any rain?
You know what? The rain chances really ramp up on Saturday and Saturday night. So we're going to have to watch that carefully, because that's the big Momus parade for Galveston's Mardi Gras, which I will be in.
So you're really watching it.
Yes, just like you have Puerto Rico, I have Galveston.
An island is an island. People are happy on the island, right?
They take care of each other.
They do.
Because they are, like Gilligan and all his friends.
Absolutely.
You know what? You're stuck on an island with people. You better be nice.
And there's something special about being out where there's water around you and, breeze. It's just...
I think when you see the ocean or the mountains, you feel small because it's so expansive. And when you feel small like that, your problems seem so ordinary.
Yes.
And it sort of puts you in perspective of the world. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason I would go to space. I have not signed up for that ride. Even if Elon Musk offered it to me, I'd be like, no, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that.
Blue Origin.
But I would love to see Earth from space.
Oh, that'd be incredible.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen the pictures.
Yes.
I bought the postage stamps.
Frank, what's coming up on today's show?
You know what? It's really interesting. Bishop James Dixon is here. He's president of the NAACP here in Houston. And, of course, especially after the whole Obamas as apes meme that went out on Friday, I'm interested to talk with him about that. That won't be the whole focus, but I do want his opinion.
Sure.
But the NAACP, just like, I don't know if you saw that the Orlando used to have, until this year, for 31 years, they've had the big gay celebration, the LGBTQ,
yes.
the Disney Gay Days and all of that. That started in 91, canceled for this year. So all minorities, all oppressed and suppressed groups are facing challenges. Yeah. He's going to talk about the NAACP.
Wow. Yeah, and we're going to be chatting with him. So don't forget, we have lots of great topics and a lot of information to chat about.
Speaking of oppression, let's get to the headlines.
A group of Harris County residents, most of them Hispanic, have filed a federal lawsuit seeking to halt immigration enforcement raids in the Houston area. The suit, filed Friday by 34 plaintiffs, targets the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. It asks a judge to clarify that U.S. citizens are not legally required to carry proof of citizenship while inside the country. The plaintiffs argue the raids violate constitutional protections against unreasonable searches and deny due process under the 4th and 5th Amendments. DHS and ICE have not responded to requests for comment. Separately, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia is calling for Noem's removal from office. Nearly 200 House Democrats have signed into impeachment legislation, a move that newly elected Congressman Christian Menefee has also said he supports. How should immigration enforcement balance public safety with constitutional protections? And where do you think that balance is being missed, if missed at all? Should Kristi Noem be impeached? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
And let's be clear, there are certain rights that citizens of the United States have, like a right to run for office, right to vote. But there are protections that anyone in this country has, whether you're just a tourist here on vacation or you are an undocumented person or you are a documented person. I mean, if you are in the United States, you are protected by the Fourth and the Fifth Amendments. You're protected by the Constitution of the United States. I mean, you've got to be protected by something.
Right.
So, of course, it's the Constitution. And the Fourth Amendment in these illegal searches and seizures is being violated by ICE. I think clearly, but I'm not a lawyer. Get your own lawyer advice out there. Don't take it from me. And then the Fifth Amendment protects you against self-incrimination.
Right.
And then, as has been pointed out, I don't carry proof with me that I'm a United States citizen. I have a driver's license from Texas, but I don't carry my passport or my birth certificate or even my Social Security card. Now, I have pictures on my phone. I do. Yeah. But that's because if I lost them, I'd have pictures. I don't do that for identity reasons.
Right.
And that might be an idea now that if you have a passport or proof, at least take a picture of it. I have a friend who has a green card, and he showed me everything that he takes with him everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
And this
it's
is
real.
I mean, he's a journalist. He's here, working and being a part of America. He's married to an American. But he doesn't want to take any chances.
Right. I traveled recently last month, and for the first time when I was getting all of my, things ready to go, I actually had a conversation with my husband where I was like, you know what, I think I might need to take the kids' documents just to make sure if I were to be stopped, and they would say, can we see, if your children are yours or whatever it might be the case. I think a lot of U.S. citizens are, regardless of where you're from, asking themselves, are we in this place now where it doesn't matter across the board, we need to have documentation? Especially, I think if it used to be, if they were going for a certain type of person, law enforcement is looking or ICE is looking at a certain profile.
Well, after 9/11, there was a lot of profiling.
Yeah.
If you looked like you were from the Middle East and you were standing at a TSA line, which TSA was in its infancy, but if you were trying to get on a plane, you're absolutely profiled. And they said, oh, no, absolutely they were. And then it did start to go away.
Yeah.
And I don't think that and they profile, I'm sure, but they don't do it in such obvious ways anymore.
Yeah. But again, 713-440-8870. You're listening to Hello Houston. We would like to know, how should immigration enforcement balance public safety with constitutional protections? And where do you think that balance is being missed, if at all? And should Kristi Noem be impeached? Again, 713-440-8870.
A lot of Democrats say she should.
200.
And it's not just because of this whole issue. It's because of the issues within the issue. It's the 3,000 ICE officers that went to one city and what happened there and how slow she was to react. And she's costing us a fortune. I mean, from what I understand, these ICE agents are getting $50,000 as a sign-up bonus and then paid $50,000. There's a lot of money going into, and that might be reasonable. I don't know,
but it was one of those things. It was passed. We knew what was going to happen. It was passed. ICE, the expansion of ICE, was put in the one big beautiful bill, and it passed, and it is now law, and it is technically, people are saying they're doing what they need to be doing. There's a lot of, I think, Americans that think we need more security around immigration. But I don't think this was the right way to necessarily go about it.
And some stats that I just read say that less than 14% of 400,000 arrests had violent criminal offenses. Less than 14%. 40% of everyone that's been arrested in the last year had no criminal record at all. Wow. And only 2% were gang members. So this feels like we've been lied to about who they are arresting and what they are really doing.
Very much so.
And I wish they would be a little more
transparent.
A little more obvious about it.
713-440-8870. Professor Jay from the North Side. Professor, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Hey guys, good morning. I think one thing that I hope that everybody, and yes, Ernie, lied to. That's the word. That's lied to. I think one of the things, though, is that people realize is that the Bill of Rights is is the Constitution. The way it's taught to us in elementary, middle school, and high school, it's kind of like it's this whole separate document. No. Those are the first 10 changes or additions to the Constitution. And the First Amendment, as it relates to protesting, it is a constitutional right. It spells out, it guarantees civil rights and liberties of individuals, including guys, due process, including the fact that we can get out in the streets. If we have a grievance with the government, it's our right and obligation, according to the Constitution, for us to get out there and let it be known, this grievance, with the expectation that the government is going to resolve the issue, not shoot us down like dogs.
There you go.
So that's my thought.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for calling again, 713-440-8870.
Yeah, it's very clear that this is going to be an ongoing issue.
Yes.
But I admire that at least the Democrats are trying to do something about it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. They might be successful in the midterms, so
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see.
Along the same lines, faculty here at the University of Houston are being asked to sign their name to a memorandum that certifies their course curriculum does not, quote, indoctrinate students. I'm not sure what that means, but Houston Public Media reporter Michael Adkison obtained an email sent to professors in the UH Honors College asking professors to complete a course review and submit their name in a survey that reads, quote, having reviewed the catalog descriptions, course objectives, student learning outcomes, and assignments, I confirm to the best of my knowledge are aligned. End quote. The memo was issued as a result of Senate Bill 37, which was an overhaul of the public higher education system that was passed by the Texas legislature and took effect in September. It permits governing bodies to have greater authority over course curricula. Educators have said it will lead to censorship. Spokespeople here at the university did not comment. In a letter to the University of the UH chapter of the American Association of University Professors said, quote, a number of deans have sent emails to faculty in their colleges. Any thoughts on the memo? Do you believe teachers indoctrinate students?
You're asking me?
I don't know. Anybody? 713-440-8870. I mean, there's something to be said for indoctrination. If you say the same thing every day and pledge an allegiance to a certain thing every day, you can be, other countries certainly indoctrinate their students to hate America. We've seen that happen, and they just hate us for no reason other than that they were taught to. I
want to take a second and look at the actual definition of indoctrination, which is the process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically.
Right. That's what I said. They hate America because they've been taught to.
The critical thinking of really understanding a subject or topic. I'm not sure that's the right word to use when we're looking at academic professors that are teaching 18 to some 30-year-olds.
Yeah, and indoctrination to me comes by rote. Like you say a certain prayer every single day.
Indoctrination also, it's a teaching instruction. Methods that were approved for indoctrination in divinity is an example.
Yeah.
To me, I don't understand the word. I understand the word. I don't think it's being used correctly within the context.
Because indoctrination usually requires a belief.
Correct.
And at the college level, you're not teaching beliefs. You're teaching facts.
Academics.
And data, and you try to make sense of it, and you also bring in critical thinking from your students.
Right.
So that they can make sense of it. So,
course curriculum does not indoctrinate students. Well, show me course curriculum
I agree.
that indoctrinate, really show me what they're talking about. What professor is going to sit there and say, oh, I'm indoctrinated? Well, students sign up for the classes. Nobody says you have to, now unless it's obviously specific to your degree. I studied finance. I had to take macroeconomics, microeconomics,
But even theologians study all religions. Even if they're on the road to become a Catholic priest, for instance, they still understand all other religions because They don't want to be indoctrinated to just one. They want to be there because they had that belief on their own.
And be able to have critical thinking and connect with people across the spectrum. Yes. We have a call, Olive from Montrose. And if you would like to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. Let's go to Olive from Montrose. Olive, welcome to Hello Houston.
How are you? I'm calling because I think we're forgetting to define our terms. Mm-hmm. When you talk about indoctrination, it's already got a really bad connotation. Fascism, Hitler, all the other dictators we've always known have used indoctrination, and attacking the schools seems to be part of the playbook that the Trump organization has been using. Now, I have a lot of history with teaching. I taught at a private school outside of Austin for many years, and we learned, and I hope my students learned, that if you make an assertion, a statement, you're supposed to be backing it up with evidence.
Yep.
And I have seen very little evidence coming out of these arguments that assert that our children, our young people in primary school even, and in secondary and college, are being indoctrinated with some kind of subversive, anti-democratic, liberal ideas. Mm-hmm. And I wish that they would give us some evidence of this instead of just using these broad generalizations to demonize college professors.
Thank you, Olive. I agree with you. I agree with Sean Radigan, too, from YouTube. He says, why haven't these people worried about students being indoctrinated? Just teach them independent thinking.
Yep.
And Phil in Texas says, when are parents going to realize that it's not professors, it's their peers that the kids listen to? And that's
very
totally
much.
Especially,
absolutely.
Especially before the age of 18.
That's right. Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Bishop James Dixon II, president of the NAACP Houston chapter, about current issues affecting the organization. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Metro is introducing a brand new fare system to the Houston region. Say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro fare system will replace the old Metro Q fare card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. You'll be able to buy Ride Metro cards at all Metro ride stores, ticket vending machines, order online, and from a growing network of retailers throughout the region. When it comes to moving about Houston, we want you to choose Metro. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
This Valentine's Day, we're on a mission to reach 100 gift memberships. You make the donation, your loved one gets the Houston Public Media membership and benefits, like PBS Passport, where they can stream thousands of hours of PBS shows. You also help us tell local stories and share voices that define Greater Houston. No matter who this gift is for, your support powers Houston Public Media. Be one of the 100. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Hi, I'm Manoush Zamarodi, and our world is changing so fast. On the TED Radio Hour, we invite innovators, researchers, and activists to unpack those changes with us.
Just about all companies are becoming technology companies or technology-enabled companies.
Listen to the TED Radio Hour from NPR every week for conversations that will deepen your understanding of our changing world.
The TED Radio Hour, Tuesdays at 10 p.m. on News 88.7.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, American Experience presents a two-part documentary about Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th President of the United States. Watch part 1 of LBJ tonight at 9 on TV8.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
Joining us today is Bishop James Dixon II, a dynamic faith leader, a civil rights advocate, and president of the NAACP Houston chapter. As we recognize Black History Month, we'll talk with Bishop Dixon about his lifelong commitment to justice, community empowerment, and equality. From church to the front lines of civil rights, his work continues to shape lives in Houston and beyond. We're honored to have him with us. Welcome to Hello Houston, sir.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so very much. Great to be with you, Bill.
I hope people on YouTube are watching you because you're so casual. I love your outfit. I want to ask real quick. We were talking about the whole Obama as apes thing, the meme that was put out by the White House and then walked back, blamed on a staffer. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think, thank you for having me. Let me say that for sure. I think we're at a tipping point in our nation. This is a similar moment where Americans are going to have to decide, are we going to just completely all out embrace racism as a permanent ideology that we don't wish to eradicate? Or are we going to be the people that we claim to be and the land that we claim to be, home of the free, land of the brave? Or we're going to follow a democracy as a principle and based on the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, or are we going to just surrender to the reality that racism is a permanent ideology? This administration purports the negative. And until all Americans, including white, black, brown, Democrat, Republican, understand that it's our moment, I think we're going to continue to see more and more of this.
Help me understand how we got here. We had a black president. And not just a black president, a really good. I mean, he got our butt out of a bucket back in 2008 when our economy was tanking. And Obama did such great things. And I thought we had moved off this dime. I really thought that we had changed as a country. Did we just slip down the slope in like 5 seconds?
I also just want to throw out he was also not mentioned in the Epstein files.
Absolutely. This is absolutely.
Well, one of the few, right?
Well, and I promise you, had he been mentioned in the files, we would have seen it a lot sooner. I think to your question, how do we get here? If you look back at history, every time there's been black advancement, there's been white racist backlash throughout history. After the Civil War, we saw Reconstruction, and then all of a sudden we see Jim Crow, and all of the backlash comes throughout history. And it happens even after the Civil Rights Movement. Anytime there's been significant progress for all Americans to move forward, particularly black, brown, and people of color, there's always been white racist backlash. When Barack Obama was elected in 2008, let's remember that before he was even sworn in, there was this adamant, publicized position of the far right. We're going to do everything to make sure he fails. Yeah, and that was blatant. That was not whispered, and America did not respond to that. The reality is, black progress that's led by black Americans has always been thwarted by those who cannot stand the idea. Their narrative fails if they have to acknowledge that Barack Obama did bring the economy forward. Barack Obama did bring America together. If they acknowledge the positives, then they automatically erase their negatives.
You know, I want to take it back, though, to a second and talk about Bishop Dixon.
Okay.
When did you know that faith and civil rights was the place that you wanted to be? And now looking at the impact that you've made and the inroads that you have made, I'm curious, do you believe that there is always an intersection between faith and civil rights?
Well, first of all, there's definitely an intersection that's permanent if it's authentic. I think that any representation of faith that does not encompass social justice and civil rights is a misrepresentation of what faith is. I think it's artificial. You ask a very deep question for me that I don't answer often because I'm not asked often. But I was in the 4th grade at Helms Elementary School. Dr. King had been assassinated, and my teacher, Miss Gloria Paul, said, get a library book, write a report. And I found this little thin book about the life of Martin Luther King Jr. I'm in 4th grade. I'm a Sunday school kid, raised in church. I read this book. I get stuck on the assassination chapter. I mean, literally paralyzed me. And I could not rationalize in my 4th grade mind why a man doing so much good in love would be killed for it. I could not reconcile that, and it traumatized me. And the only thing I could equate it to was my Sunday school lessons about Jesus. Like Jesus was healing the sick and feeding the hungry and loving people, but he ends up on a cross. I knew that story from infancy.
Yeah.
So I could see the parallelisms between Martin Luther King and Jesus, and it hit me then that the price for doing good would be sacrifice, like you might get killed for it. And I cried in my fourth grade desk, and that was not cool because I was Jimmy Dixon, like I was, the dude. But I broke out crying, and my teacher patted me on the shoulder. The only thing that consoled me is when I said to God in my prayer on my fourth grade desk, if you ever need someone else to die for doing good, count me in. That was my fourth grade conviction. So I've known since then. In my senior year of high school, our coach called a kid the N-word on our football team. We were picked to win the city. I was a quarterback. And they asked me, what do we do after this? I said, I won't play again until they apologize to Lester. The coach did not apologize. It forfeited our whole senior year of football was done. But we boycotted. As a result, though, the coach was fired. The principal was on probation. The change of the school's culture was amazing. I did not know, but prior to that at Waltrip High School, no black had ever gotten a scholarship to play football. Since then, they've gone to the pros, played in the Super Bowls, because sacrifice is always what's required if you're going to live this life for social justice. It's not glamour, it's not celebrity, it's sacrifice for the good of people you might not even get to meet. And by the way, today, the Prairie View coach at Prairie View A&M, who just made all these amazing, he is a product of Waltrip High School, and he tells me we're the result of the sacrifice that you all made. So that's the kind of life that I've lived since then.
Wow. So it must shake you up a little bit then to see this administration. I mean, you recount this story of a coach saying this word and being fired.
Yes.
And then the President of the United States pulls some of these shenanigans, and it just gets swept under the rug.
I think that Dr. King said it right, that we would not only have to repent in this generation for the bad actions and bad words of bad people, but for the appalling silence of good people. When we see this happen, I'm waiting for the white evangelical pastors at some point to say, hey, wait, you crossed the line. I'm waiting, because they read the same Bible I read from. I'm waiting for there to be an all-out demonstration of that's enough. And yet we see faith leaders, business leaders, political leaders continue to remain silent and turn the other way. And I think that really speaks to me about more than the administration, more than Trump. It speaks about the state of American consciousness, that we live in a nation that is still tolerant of this, because, let's get this, elected officials will respond to the masses. It's never been the other way around. We've got to create the kind of agitation on the ground floor that causes frustration in the top floor.
It is kind of interesting that the two sacrifices of their life in Minneapolis were both white citizens of America. That kind of surprised me.
Well, I think it's true, but when we go back in history again, we look at Goodman and Schwalen and the three young men that were killed doing fighting for voting rights. They were not black. One was black, two were white. And yet, I think if people read history, we're writing it again. And, of course, there was an uptick in demonstrations when the two white lives were lost. A few weeks later, black life was lost in California. Nobody responded. In Chicago, nobody responded. There still seems to be this two-tier system, and all life is equally sacred to me. And we've got to preach that, practice that, and live that. But it's unfortunate it takes a white life before we really pay attention. But where we're today, back to business as usual.
You know, Bishop Dixon, you are the president of the NAACP right here in Houston, the chapter here in Houston. What would you say are the most pressing civil rights issues that you're seeing within our own community right now?
Well, thank you for that question. I think it's very vital, too, for us to understand that racism is not just happening in the United States. Like, we are that United States.
Correct.
We are that state of Texas. Voter suppression is huge here. Texas is the leading state for voter suppression. And I think people forget that. Texas is the second richest state in the nation, and yet our public schools are funded down about number 3. That's a real issue with us. The wealth gap is wider here than most states. The education gap is wider here than most states because policy is made that's racist. That determines outcomes that are social. And if we don't understand what the policies are in Texas that affect us, remember now, just recently, the governor issued this whole edict regarding MWBE, and our small businesses are being challenged and being choked out. We are suffering here in Houston and in Texas, but many people are ignoring it, those who know it, and then others don't know because they're not paying attention to what's going on right here at home.
Well, and the redistricting, do you think that black people can come together, or really all people of color, and say, oh, no, you're not going to redistrict us out of representation?
Well, the reality is, of course, we know what happened. Of course, the White House issued the command for the new districts, and now we've lost a congressional seat. Remember, that plan worked, right? And we've got now feuding between blacks and browns over District 29, where Sylvia Garcia is. And we've got a black running against a black now for the 18th with Al Green, of course, running for that seat, and of course, my friend Christian. Both of those men I love. And I'm not here to talk about a campaign, but my point is all of that was designed by this racist regime. Redistricting, and of course, the judge here, thank God, that it is on record, said this is unconstitutional and it's racist. These were racially drawn lines, and yet in America it still passes. And in this Texas, it still passes. Can we come together? We can, we must. But what we must do is understand that until there's enough agitation, we're not going to get the right cooperation at the level of legislation. That's the civil rights movement. And throughout history, without agitation from the public, you don't get the right legislation at the top in public office.
We do have a call from Adrian in Sugar Land. Adrian, welcome to Hello Houston. What's your comment or question for the bishop here today?
Well, I have my name is Adrian. I'm calling from Sugar Land. I'm of African descent, of course, a Nigerian. I have a question. I see a lot of black leaders talking about past glories, but, there is none. I hardly see any black leader talking about current issues. It used to be when there are issues like this, gerrymandering, redistricting, where black leaders are possibly potentially going to maybe, be challenged or lose the seat, and stuff like the lynch in several states. I don't hear black leaders talking about these things. There should be town hall meetings where these things are being brought to the consciousness or the forefront of those concerned to stakeholders. But black leaders of today are no longer as vibrant as Dr. King and his cohorts. They are more concerned now about talking about past glories. What happened to them? Have the voices of black leaders of today been silenced by current happenings? There haven't been any great, we used to hear of Reverend Jackson, but he's old now. But no one is actually representing blacks as they should be represented. There should be more, publication, more, talk about what is going on in the black community. Black leaders are no longer heard of. They are just there in the background, talking about past glories. I leave that to the bishop to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Dr. Bishop, what do you, yes.
No, thank you very much, Adrian, for your passionate commentary. I think the criticism on some level is justified because there are not enough black leaders doing what we should be doing. On the other hand, there are some who are. But it's very difficult, I should say difficult. It's different today than it was before. One, because most of us, even black people, have tasted somewhat of what the middle class tastes like, right? And comfortability sometimes causes complicity. And we've got to understand that sometimes it takes until it affects us directly, we don't think it is us necessarily. And I think that's the case. But the other piece is, for a person like yourself, I would urge you to connect with the few who are. Dr. King and his team was never in the majority. one of the misnomers is that all black Americans, all good people in America came together for this movement. Nah, it didn't happen that way. Dr. King was a very unpopular person in the minds of most people. But there was a small group of people who were relentlessly pursuing justice and were willing to fight and die for it. I would urge you to connect with the NAACP. You'll connect with people like me, and you'll end up seeing where the fight is. You'll be at the forum, you'll be at the press event, you'll be at the march, you'll be at the protest, because that we are doing it. Although you might not see it often or enough, we are in the fight, and we need more people like you to fight with us.
Nice. That's a nice way to wrap this segment. That's the message here. Get involved.
Absolutely. We need everyone involved, and not just black. We need black, white, and brown. Righteousness and justice is not a color issue. It's a matter of principles and values. And if we share common values, we're going to have common vision. And common vision then leads to common valor, and common valor leads to common victory. That's what it's all about.
Thank you.
Bishop James Dixon II is the president of the NAACP Houston chapter. Thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you all for having me.
Coming up, we're going to highlight the Goethe-Institut here in Houston. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro fare system will replace the old Metro Q fare card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
Sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm going to sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 10 p.m. on News 88.7.
So Brett was standing on a subway platform. Sees a stranger walking from person to person, saying to each one, "You, you're in. You, out. You can stay." The guy's not violent, doesn't make anybody actually leave. But silly as it sounds,
I found that you can't help but kind of hope that he gives you the thumbs up when your turn comes.
that and other stories about the kindness of strangers this week on This American Life.
You can hear it Wednesday night at 9 p.m.
This Valentine's Day, give a Houston Public Media membership to your loved one, and they'll unlock PBS Passport. That's a front row seat to binge-worthy dramas, documentaries, and more. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider committed to handling claims to help injured workers get back to work. More at texasmutual.com/mutual care. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q fare card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system. Support comes from Gelb Productions, presenting Il Volo, with a performance including arias, classic Italian melodies, and crossover selections. Saturday, April 25th at Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land. Tickets at smartfinancialcenter.net.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
The Goethe-Institut, Germany's official cultural institute, has expanded its presence in the U.S. with a new branch right here in Houston, focused on fostering cultural dialogue and educational partnerships across Texas. Programs like Among Friends are bringing German literature, music, and language to communities across the state, and again, right here in Houston. To talk about the impact of these initiatives and what's ahead, we're speaking with Sandy Schwalen, the program coordinator at the Goethe-Institut Houston. Sandy, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, just right off the bat, why did you guys decide Houston was the place to expand and have a new hub here within the state? And where else are you guys located?
Yeah. And is this recent? Did y'all just come to Houston?
Yes, kind of. So different parts of the same answer, I think. So the Goethe-Institut has about 6 presence in the U.S. Currently, we're in Boston, New York, D.C., Chicago, L.A., and San Francisco, and now Houston. And actually, the Goethe-Institut did exist in Houston for about 20 years until 2000. at which point it closed sort of as different, priorities shifted, not
Sure.
really sure what was going on at that time. It was back open as a pop-up institute starting in 2018 for about 2-3 years. And now starting last year in 2025 in October, we officially reopened here in Houston.
So how does the Houston branch connect kind of the broader U.S. network with the Goethe-Institut offices?
Yeah, so at Goethe, we work together with our region, which in this case is North America. So it's actually Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. And we have different programs such as Among Friends, which you mentioned, where we kind of are working with our colleagues to bring programs to the greater U.S. So recently we had the German writer Navid Kamani on like a U.S. tour. He was also here in Houston. We're actually planning another sort of tour, a literary tour, which you mentioned, which is called On the Road, bringing young German writers on a road trip through the U.S. where they'll be in conversation with folks in different locations and reading their works.
So you're sort of, is it fair to say, cultural ambassadors from Germany?
Yeah, that's basically what we're doing. Our goal, our mission is to bring contemporary German culture to whichever country, in this case the U.S., because we exist in 90 different countries throughout the world.
So,
well, do y'all even like us right now? I'm serious.
Well, I don't want to speak for like everyone who works at Goethe-Institut.
Right.
Obviously, it is a more difficult political time right now, but that's why we initiated this program.
The good in us, right?
And that's why I'm actually curious, when we're looking at dialogue and fostering and facilitating dialogue between the relationship between Americans and Germans, why do you think that is so important? Why do you think it's important that we are connecting these two cultures together?
Well, there's definitely been a long history of a friendship, a relationship between the U.S. and Germany on like a state level, but also just on an interpersonal level, right? There's lots of folks here in Texas who are maybe like 5th, 6th, 7th generation Texas Germans, right? Whose ancestors immigrated in the 19th century from Germany to Texas, also to the U.S. at large. So I think there's that historical component. And I think it's just important in times like this for people to come together and remain in dialogue and try to bring people closer together.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Germans brought Bremen cattle to the United States, to Texas, and you look at all of the German names of all the towns, from Kerrville on up, the New Braunfels and all of that, and then all the Lutheran churches that are so cute out in the hill country. There is a very strong German presence that people don't realize, but I think because it is so integrated into the fabric of Texas, as you say, since the 1840s. I mean, 1840s.
Yeah, 1840s.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
How has the Houston community responded to the Goethe-Institut being here?
So far, really well. I think there's maybe older folks who still remember Goethe from back in the day before it closed in 2000. There's folks who came to the pop-up. The pop-up did a lot of like film programming, which some people mentioned they remembered. And generally, I've been trying to do different types of programming to try to sort of attract different types of people, because cultural programming is really broad, right? So it can be film, it can be music, it can be visual arts, literature, like there's lots of different aspects.
Is there something that Houstonians specifically like that you are trying to tailor when it comes to bringing, like food or film? Or is there something that makes it unique from some of the other hub and locations that Goethe has?
So I do actually think that that historical connection that a lot of Texans have to Germany is kind of unique. So we've been thinking about doing, or we have done some programming on that. We had Dr. Hans Boas come down from UT Austin, talk about the Texas German Dialect Project. We're trying to work with some of the German American associations that exist here, German Texas associations that exist here in the state. And we're also kind of trying to do that in the Midwest. So that's one aspect. I personally am trying to do film programming. I feel like film is a really great way for people, maybe if you don't have any connection to Germany, don't really know anything about it. Right. You can come to the movies, watch a movie that came out of Germany recently and kind of learn what's going on in the culture and society today.
Now, Sandy, you are fluent in German.
Yes.
I've heard you speak. I was actually at the opening of the talk.
I detect an accent.
And it was beautiful. Do you have a lot of German-speaking individuals who want to participate, or is it really, like you said, people that really don't know anything about German culture and are interested?
So I would say it's part of each group. We do all of our programming, our cultural programming, in the native language of the country that we're in. So in this case, in the U.S., we're doing stuff in English. Sometimes we have some bilingual stuff too, and we're hoping to do some German language things as well for folks who want to maybe practice German. But our goal is really to be accessible and open for anyone to join us, and also to attract people who,
And where are you? I mean, do you have a physical brick and mortar place?
So Houston, we're a little different. Usually the Goethe-Institutes do have a brick and mortar office with space for programming, for art exhibitions, things like that. Here in Houston, we're actually in a co-working space. We're at Common Desk and Post downtown. So that's why our opening was actually at Post. So sometimes we do events there, but we're also really open to, and sort of called to the listeners, we want to work with partners. We want to work with cultural institutions and organizations that exist already, because we are a very small team and we don't have our own space, and because that's really important.
Do you have a website?
We do have a website, Goethe, which is spelled Goethe, .de, because it's a German website, /Houston. There's a newsletter you can subscribe to. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook, not as much. And we're on LinkedIn. So
you're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
You're everywhere we are, right?
Yeah.
Nice. What do you think? So there are some misconceptions of when people think about German culture that you see often.
Well, I mean, I think cultural stereotypes, there's maybe often some grain of truth to them, but sometimes these biases are a little bit overstated, right? I think in the U.S. generally, German culture has this, you think of Oktoberfest and beer and sausages. Lederhosen,
Lederhosen.
And that is actually just one part of German culture. It's from Bavaria, the south of Germany. In some ways, kind of like the Texas of Germany.
A good part of German culture.
But there's obviously a lot more. And I would say, what I was saying, our mission is contemporary German culture. So also bringing things to the U.S. that are in the culture and the society right now in Germany. And there's stuff going on besides Oktoberfest. There's, artists working. There's musicians. There's DJs. There's lots of great cultural work coming out of Germany that.
Well, don't forget your automobiles. We like those here.
That's
for sure.
That's true.
So what can people expect this year, looking at some of the programming? What can people, if they want to learn more about it or attend an event, what can they expect?
Yeah, so definitely some of these discussions, I hesitate to say literary discussions because that sounds really highbrow, but discussions with writers, young writers from Germany who want to talk to local people here. We've got I probably shouldn't say the name yet of who it is, but we've got a German writer and DJ who will be here in April, hopefully. We're definitely doing more film programming, some Rosa von Braunheim films. He was a prolific German, a queer filmmaker who passed away last year. We'll have some stuff relating to soccer since World Cup.
Yeah, FIFA World Cup's coming.
Yeah, so lots of different things. Maybe some visual art as well. I'm hoping to bring an exhibit here.
And you'll be challenged. Germans are some of the most educated people in the world. They learn in high school what we learn in college. Seriously,
it's true.
Yeah, I know, smart folks. So you'll enjoy the conversations.
Yes, Sandy is the program coordinator at the Goethe-Institut Houston. Thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up, we're going to continue discussing the top headlines of the day. We'll also talk with Marcos Velez, who's running to be the Texas' next lieutenant governor. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Weekday mornings are a juggle, sometimes even a struggle. Morning Edition from NPR News eases you into your day and keeps you company through the chaos of a busy morning. Hear interviews that give you context on the day's biggest stories, along with reporting and updates on the latest breaking news. Stay on top of the world with Morning Edition every weekday.
Morning Edition, weekdays 5 to 9 a.m. on News 88.7.
We'll have a sunny day, warming up all the way to around 78. Could even hit 80 today, and then tonight partly cloudy. Fog moves in overnight, a low near 63. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, the high 76. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll recap last night's Super Bowl, which ended in a victory for the Seattle Seahawks over the New England Patriots, as well as the halftime show featuring Bad Bunny. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with Marcos Velez, a candidate for lieutenant governor who will discuss his campaign, the issues driving his run, and his vision for the future of Texas.
Plus, Houston Public Media's Senior Director of Digital Operations, Mark Norris, will give us a live report from the 2026 Winter Olympics taking place in Italy.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. Convicted sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell refused this morning in a virtual appearance to answer questions from the House Oversight Committee about her time with Jeffrey Epstein. Lawmakers say she invoked her Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate herself. Maxwell is serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is struggling to keep his job over his handling of a scandal involving Epstein. NPR's Lauren Frayer reports.
First, Starmer's chief of staff resigned over his role recommending one of Epstein's friends as ambassador to Washington. Now Starmer's communications chief has stepped down as well. Opposition politicians and even some members of Starmer's own party are calling for the prime minister to resign over his judgment in naming Peter Mandelson as ambassador. Starmer has said he regrets that and has apologized to Epstein's victims. Meanwhile, a royal spokesperson says Prince William and his wife Kate are deeply concerned about the latest Epstein files. William's uncle Andrew, no longer a prince because of his own Epstein ties, is now alleged to have passed confidential trade information to the sex offender. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, London.
President Trump is using social media to criticize a U.S. Olympic skier, calling 27-year-old Hunter Hess a loser. This comes after the athlete voiced concern about political developments in the U.S. NPR's Brian Mann reports.
A growing number of U.S. Olympians have voiced criticism in Italy about Trump's immigration crackdown. Hess from Bend, Oregon, said in a press conference last week he has, quote, mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now. Trump fired back Sunday on his Truth Social platform, calling Hess a real loser, adding, quote, very hard to root for someone like this. The exchange comes after U.S. figure skater Amber Glenn said she's received threats and hate online after voicing support for LGBTQ rights. I've never had so many people wish me harm before, Glenn told NPR. In a statement, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee said it takes threats against U.S. athletes seriously, adding that they'd seen an increase in abusive and harmful messages directed at the athletes. Brian Mann, NPR News, Milan.
The search for the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie is now in its second week. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her Arizona home on January 31st. NPR's Bill Chappell has been following the investigation.
There are multiple reports of ransom notes being sent to local media in Tucson. One local TV station, KGUN, said they received a ransom note that demanded $6 million by Monday evening, and that's later today. Police have not publicly confirmed details about ransom in concrete terms, but the FBI, that's been working with the local sheriff's department, has said that while it's advising the Guthrie family in this case, any decision about whether to pay a ransom or not is up to them.
NPR's Bill Chappell. This is NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. 7 candidates are running to fill a seat on the Houston City Council. The slate was finalized last week, and the special election for District C is scheduled for April 4th. 5 candidates self-identify as progressive, while the other 2 emphasize their affiliation with the Democratic Party. Political scientist Renee Cross with the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs says those similarities pose a challenge.
Bottom line, it's going to be hard for them to differentiate between each other. I honestly think that it's going to come down to name recognition.
News 88.7 interviewed all 7 city council candidates. You can read more about them at houstonpublicmedia.org. The price of fuel is slowly trickling upward across the Houston area. AAA reports an average for a gallon of regular gas is coming in at around $2.44 a gallon. That's a 10-cent increase over last month. We're still well below where we were at this point last year, when regular fuel in Houston averaged $2.67 a gallon. The national average is now back over $2.90 a gallon for regular. Taking a look at sports. The Rockets return to the Toyota Center tomorrow night, hosting the LA Clippers. The Rockets beat the OKC Thunder over the weekend 112-106 on Saturday. The team is in the 4th place of the NBA Western Conference. And with a check of your weather, it's going to be partly sunny and breezy today with a high of 80 degrees. Mostly cloudy overnight with a low around 62. We'll see some south winds, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Patchy fog in the mornings, and it's going to be partly cloudy throughout the day tomorrow with a high near 77. Right now, mostly sunny, 73 degrees on the UH campus. Get the whole story. For more news and information, go to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the estate of Joan B. Kroc, whose bequest serves as an enduring investment in the future of public radio and seeks to help NPR be the model for high-quality journalism in the 21st century. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Without Ernie.
Without Ernie. Ernie's
Hey,
off
Ernie.
today,
Yeah, he's taking care of his mom.
but he'll be back.
Oh, well, he better be.
He'll always be back.
Can't leave you with me. That would be awful.
Oh, that'd be terrible. Oh, how dare he leave us alone.
I'm sure he's doing just fine.
I'm sure. But we want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston for this second hour. Whether you're joining us on your radio, 88.7, or on YouTube, we've had a lot of chit-chat this morning already. And one thing I want to chat about is weather, Frank, because it is beautiful.
Stupendous, like Bad Bunny was.
Yes.
In a different way. I got a little bit of cloud cover out there right now, but that's okay. You know, we had fog the other morning, and we'll see fog develop in the mornings, it looks like, probably all week.
What is that fog from, Frank?
Well, you've got warmer air going over the cold waters of the Gulf of Mexico. And so you mix cold and warm, and you're going to get condensation, and that's a land cloud, and we call it fog.
Love that.
Yes.
I love I learned something new every day.
I heard somebody I saw at a party this weekend said, "Oh, I love y'all's show. I learned something every day." I'm like, "Really? From us?"
Yes. Yes. You know, I emceed the parish school's gala this weekend, and I had 2 wonderful ladies come up to me and they said, "I love watching your show. All 3 of you, Frank, Ernie, yourself, bring something totally different, and we're always just ready to see what kind of trouble y'all get into."
Well, apparently I'm deluded.
Okay.
I know.
Tell us more.
Oh, look, Dark One says I'm deluded if I think college teaches facts. Many professors preach. I'll give them that. Yeah, I haven't been in college in 100 years. And mine probably indoctrinated me too, and I didn't even know it, to be a liberal thinking, honest person. Who knows?
I don't remember taking classes where we even chatted anything about social things, topics. It was
history. I mean, we talked a lot about the Civil War.
I don't think I even took a history class in college.
You didn't have to take history?
I studied accounting, and so I had to take, ethics, business 101,
Sure.
microeconomics, macroeconomics, taxation, corporate tax. And so they're just, when people are talking about professors that are indoctrinating students, I was like, did I just miss a whole area? Because that was not a part of my education system or experience at all. It was like, these are debits, these are credits. This is how you audit.
Try not to mix them up.
Don't mess them up. Retake that class, because clearly I'm a words person. And so I don't know.
Well, we got a long text, and it would take me 5 minutes to read it. But this one person says that professors are definitely sharing their opinions as part of their lectures. Parents have saved their entire lives to send their children to college, and then those opinions come from the professor teaching the subject matter. Students accept those opinions as fact. That's where you start to get this indoctrination. And this person's not alone. Another person says indoctrination, in this case, in terms of liberal beliefs being normalized in such a way that disputing or trying to debate them results in a derogatory grade or being a social outcast. So, I mean, then
can't you drop classes? I mean, if you're in a class and you have a professor that you feel truly is out of line. Again, whenever I was in college, or it wasn't, you just drop the class. You're like, I'm out. I don't necessarily need to be listening to this. So I don't know.
Well, Richard has another take. Texas elected Republicans think anything that is not pro-Jesus or pro-Trump is indoctrination. So it's a political divide going on here. That opinions that are being taught. And I don't know. I haven't been in a classroom really.
Education,
in 45 years.
And that's where it's like, is everything. We've just moved into a space where everything becomes political and politically charged.
Yeah.
And so I go back to, I would love to hear from college students that have experienced that, or parents.
If they feel they're being indoctrinated?
Yes, or parents that say, that their children, I know for a fact, I've talked about this before. I get pretty personal on here, where my sister lives in Colorado, and she has had times where there was a problem with a teacher who refused to stand up during the Pledge of Allegiance during class. And my nephew, who is a scout and does another type of group, was very, very upset about that. And so I understand that we find ourselves in situations where we are not aligning necessarily on social and political issues. I just don't think that should be within our classroom.
It could be argued that if you expand groups like the Turning Point, which have very specific beliefs, and you expand those into high schools, which the state of Texas is requiring, that these Turning Point groups be in. You could say that those are indoctrinating students into thinking certain ways. Yeah. I haven't heard a lot of objection to that.
And that is another point. And I know we've talked about the pendulum swinging back and forth. And over the weekend, I was really thinking about that. And I was thinking about, Frank, our conversation. I think it was on Friday that we had it. And I thought, I think it's become less of a pendulum, where a pendulum sits in the middle. And it's become more of a tug of war.
Well, there you go.
And when you're in a tug of war and the rope gets pulled, the center is moving constantly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is become, much more of a tug of war and less of the Constitution is the middle and the pendulum swings based on the interpretation of it.
Well, we have a call from Joyce in Northwest Houston. I suspect talking about this very subject. Hi, Joyce. Welcome to Hello Houston.
I love Hello Houston. I think that these parents are forgetting that part of being a teenager or a young adult is rebelling against their parents and trying to be different. The college professor is not indoctrinating. The kids are desperately finding a way to pretend that they're different from their parents.
No, that may be a point.
Yes.
I was different than my parents, for sure.
But again, 713-440-8870. Frank, I think it's time. For
discussion
the headlines
of the Super Bowl.
I've been sitting here waiting.
I know. Go.
The Seattle Seahawks beat the New England Patriots in Santa Clara 29-13, but Bad Bunny scored at halftime with a show that celebrated his homeland of Puerto Rico. Special guest Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin joined in the performance. Bad Bunny's first English words in the performance were, "God bless America," after which he proceeded to name Mexico, Colombia, Panama, Venezuela, and other countries of the Americas before finishing with the USA, Canada, and Puerto Rico. The final message of the halftime show appeared on a screen before the game resumed. "The only thing stronger than hate is love." Regarding Super Bowl ads, some of the highest ranked included Pepsi's switching polar bears that spoofed the Coldplay convert moment from last year, and the Novartis loosen your tight end spot for prostate cancer screenings. What did you think about Bad Bunny's halftime performance? Did it hit the right notes, or was it underwhelming? What was your favorite ad? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston, 713-440-8870.
Oh, absolutely. The prostate ad was my favorite. That was so funny. And all these, it's like relax your tight end. And it was from all the players that were tight ends.
Right. Yes. No, I think there were a lot. There was a 90s, the Duncan with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, was it AI that made them all young again or something? Yeah, I guess so.
It had to be.
That was a fun one there. I thought the game itself was a yawn.
Yeah.
I kept trying to make it fun, but it was just kind of there.
It slowly became like background, just had it
on. Well, the whole first half,
it
was all field goals, and 9-0 or something, and it just, I don't know, it didn't spark.
It didn't have.
But I thought Bad Bunny, that's really what we should talk about, because there was such controversy, and I thought he did a marvelous job of giving the message of inclusivity and understanding. I had about 3 years of Spanish, so I can read Spanish better than I can speak it. So I could read a lot of what he was saying and could at least get the gist of it.
Well, it was very interesting. In a pre-interview leading up to the Super Bowl, Bad Bunny did a press conference, and one of the reporters asked him, we only have a couple of days left to learn Spanish. And he said, he said, "You don't have to learn Spanish. You just have to learn how to dance." Yeah,
it was fun. And it had that joyous, you've been to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But even I think of Mexico and Rio, that joyous dancing and being alive.
Yes.
It was really, I thought it really, that sparked.
And the fact of the matter is, Bad Bunny could have chosen to do anything. And as a true artist, he chose, I would say, to celebrate, not, prove anything, but to celebrate the culture that Latino Americans bring to everybody.
Well, and he could have said, look, I won the Grammy for Best Album of the Year that was all in Spanish. So this is what I get to do.
Yes.
And just like we hear from the White House, President Trump was elected by the American people, so this is what he gets to do. We hear that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But Bad Bunny did not take that route.
No.
He thought, no, I want to send a message to everyone.
Yes.
I want to honor my homeland. I want to honor the Americas from South, Central, United States, North America. And I want to basically put the message out there that love wins.
Yes.
That we've all been saying for so long. I mean, there was an actual wedding. That couple, they really did get married.
They really did
in
get
front
married.
of 70,000 people and a big audience at home.
And it was, I believe, an interracial marriage. I believe he was American and maybe the woman was Latina. I read somewhere around it.
It went a little fast for me to tell. I couldn't tell.
They were moving through it.
It was a man and a woman, I can tell you that.
They
were gender appropriate for, I guess, America today, right?
It moved fast. Again, it was just loaded with cultural storytelling and the symbolism. And I just thought it was on point. I thought it was respectful. I thought he did a great job of celebrating Latino culture.
Okay. So what do you think? We have Jair on the line. Jair, hi, from Northwest Houston. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. I thought it was a great performance. It's a message of solidarity. It's, trying to unite all of us, not just some of us, the whole Americas. Everybody gets a flag. Everybody gets a shout out. I think that really speaks for itself. It can be considered something political, but at the same time, love, like you said, overpowers hate any day of the week. And, he put that message out there, and everybody should be happy to celebrate their own culture in America. This is what America was built on. When I see a, Irish flag or a German flag, I don't get offended. I love it. Come to America and love yourself and love others.
Yep. Make America America again. That's what I say.
And again, 713-440-8870. Let's go to Christian from the Woodlands.
Hey, guys. First, wanted to say I love you guys' show. But pretty much I've always been kind of a 50-50 fan of Bad Bunny. But after listening to you guys' show last week where you guys were kind of mentioning, hey, what are people going to think about it and everything? And then I started keeping up with him after the Grammys. And I was like, okay, he might actually be onto something. And then I watched the halftime performance with an open mind. I'm a production guy, so everything from the production to even the messaging from the show, it spoke volumes to me. Also, I'm a Hispanic myself, and seeing all of these different things that the Hispanic culture takes pride in, him displaying that on screen for pretty much the whole nation to see while also holding those production standards was incredible to me. And I told my fiance, I was like, hey, I'm a fan after this. So those are my thoughts.
Excellent.
Yes.
Right.
Thanks, Christian, for giving us a call.
Christian.
And let's go to Bonnie from Baytown. Bonnie, welcome to Hello Houston. What were your thoughts about last night's performance?
Hello. I was not impressed with Bad Bunny. First of all, I don't like the crotch grabbing thing that he did.
He got in a couple of times. He got that in.
Secondly, he says you didn't need to understand Spanish, but I'm sorry. It's very difficult to listen to somebody who's saying they're giving you a message when you can't understand it. And I watched the show waiting and waiting and waiting for him to do this political, thing that he said he was going to do. And, I heard the God Bless America, and that was the only thing I heard. So I was not really impressed. The music was fine. The music was, that kind of music. But, yeah, I wasn't really impressed with him. I'm sorry.
Bonnie, quick question for you. When you talk about waiting for the political thing that he said he was going to do, did you think that was going to look a certain way, or were you expecting something different than the performance?
I was literally expecting him to make a comment about Trump or about the ICE or about something. That's the feeling I got when everybody was saying, oh, he's going to make a political statement. And I didn't hear anything like that.
Well, not all political statements have to be divisive either.
And I'm also curious, do you think that the underwhelm comes from the fact that you were wanting him to make a louder political statement?
It's possible.
Yeah. I think that's a point. Thank you, Bonnie, for joining us on Hello Houston.
We have Sharon from Outside the Loop. I'm not sure what that means, although I know exactly what that means. But Sharon, welcome to Hello Houston. We are outside one loop, but we're inside another.
Thank you. I'm outside the first loop, and having been an inner looper for 11 years, I recognize the designation. I also understand that woman's frustration at not hearing the political comment, but Bad Bunny did make one, If You Know the Island, and it had to do with the power polls and the lack of interest that America showed towards its island that it has dominance over. But what I'd really like to talk about is cannot verify it, but there was a reverend who spoke this morning through a blog about how the evangelical pastors put on a counter halftime show, Reverend Franklin Graham, that wasn't going to be with the, quote, sexualized agenda, and yet they featured Kid Rock, who has songs that are so misogynistic, so permissive of sexual cruelty to children. You know, some of the songs he has, like Cool Daddy Cool, celebrate the pedophilia, and it just astounded me. And I would like you to address, do you know if that evangelical counterpoint actually took place on the Trinity Broadcasting Network?
I did. It was done in North Dakota, I think.
I don't believe it was broadcast anywhere but on YouTube. I believe there was a last-minute licensing issue, and so they did have some technical issues. However, it was broadcasted on YouTube, and what she's talking about, the conservative organization Turning Point USA's did have a halftime program that featured country musician Brantley Gilbert, Gabby Barrett, Lee Brice, and then Kid Rock played, and he was the headliner.
Who has, as she mentioned, just horrific lyrics.
Well, I have a very specific memory of Kid Rock. In 1998, when I was 13 and my brother was 16, he had just gotten a car, and he had a CD, and it was Kid Rock's CD, and I think it was called The Devil Has No Boundaries. And my dad got in the car, and the music was on, and he pushed eject to the CD player, and the CD came out, and it's actually Kid Rock's hand giving the finger. My dad snapped it in half, and he said, absolutely not. You all will not listen to that. And so it is very interesting that a very conservative group, such as Turning Point USA, would choose Kid Rock as a headliner to counter. But the fact of the matter is that when we're looking at the numbers, tens of millions watched the Super Bowl with the halftime performance, and I believe the last number I saw was around 5 million.
Yeah,
maybe?
5 to 6 million watched Kid Rock.
6
But that's
million.
not the point. The point is that he has pedophilia lyrics,
His lyrics
from 2000, 2001,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it proudly, I mean, he's never apologized for those. He's never done a second retake, and he's been embraced by the Trump administration and Turning Point. So is Nicki Minaj. Her lyrics, man, I blush when I read them. I'm pretty liberal, but I can't even say them out loud on this program.
It makes Frank blush.
But, I mean, they have really embraced two people whose music is abhorrent to the Christian ethic.
But, you know, I want to go back to Bonnie, our caller, who said that she she felt it maybe was a little underwhelming. She wasn't, because it wasn't political enough. And I think that many Latinos feel like, and I'm going to go out on a branch here, is that he sent a message of unity. And it almost felt like as a country, we're a little dehydrated of that message. And last night felt like a glass of water for many, I think, Latinos who just have been getting hammered with headlines about what you see out there happening. Okay, and again, 713-440-8870. Let's go to Jane from Fort Bend. Jane, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey, guys. I just have to say I loved it. He did a great performance. He made you want to get up and dance. And I just loved his manner. He's not an in-your-face in terms of his statement. His statement was very powerful if we receive it. Love is actually more powerful than hate. And I loved that at the end he showed all of us, all of the different countries and all of the Americas. And guess what? It's a great segue to the Olympics. That whole welcoming, we're all athletes, or we're all people. I mean, I thought it was, like you said, like a drink of water, cold water in this very toxic, acidic conversation. I thought his conversation was, hey, I see you, and you're okay. You're not me. You're not like me, but you're human, and I see you, and that validates my existence.
That's
and
beautiful.
I don't have to demean you in order to be somebody. So thanks so much for welcoming him. I thought he was great. I love him.
Thanks, Jane. Let's take a quick call from Chella in Sugar Land. Hi, Chella.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. Just wanted to say I'm Mexican, and the halftime, it reinforced my pride to be Mexican and not to delude myself or my culture, because that way I can enrich the other people with everything that we are. And I am so thankful and so wonderful that Bunny wasn't there to deliver that, because as Hispanics, we have to unite ourselves and be proud of our roots. And by the way, my grandkids, they're gringuitos, but one of them is a mariachi. And wow, I'm so proud.
Wow.
So very proud.
Chela, that's amazing. Yes, I agree. You know, growing up, people like to think Latinos are very, again, monochromatic, and we're not. And as somebody who grew up in South Texas on the border, my mom is Mexican. She was born in Mexico. My dad is from Panama. And I used to always think, like, I just wish, you know, I could be like the rest of my friends. Like, they were just either, you know, all Mexican or all, you know, what, I'm this or that. And last night, as a grown woman, I sat there and I thought, I'm American.
There you go.
And that is what I was so proud of to watch. I am a Latin American, and again, what a fabulous, fabulous time. A drink of water. Okay, coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Marcos Velez, a candidate for lieutenant governor. He's here to talk about his campaign, the issues driving his run, and his vision for the future of Texas. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro Fare System will replace the old Metro Q Fare Card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
You do. Is it still possible to be in a relationship with someone who has different politics? That's next time on The Middle.
You can hear it Thursday night at 8 p.m.
This Valentine's Day, give a Houston Public Media membership to your loved one, and they'll unlock PBS Passport. That's a front row seat to binge-worthy dramas, documentaries, and more. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston system, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare System replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from DeCamera, presenting Brooklyn Rider, Frida's Dreams, with the premiere of a string quartet by Gabriela Lena Frank, inspired by Frida Kahlo, February 20th at Hobby Center. Tickets at decamera.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
All right, joining us now is Marcos Velez, a candidate for lieutenant governor. He's here to talk about his campaign, the issues driving his run, and his vision for the future of Texas. Marcos, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you guys for having me.
I tell you, have you run before for any office?
I have not run for public office. Run for several positions within organized labor, but never public office.
So this is quite the ring to throw your hat in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
What made you want to do that?
I think it's the reality that every Texan feels. Politicians, they talk about our struggles, our issues. They campaign on our pain, but when they talk about instability in the grid, it's not a grid that they actually have to deal with. They have the money and the resources to avoid the outages. When you look at the lack of jobs and opportunities for young people, their children will never struggle to find jobs. And so someone that's a labor activist and worked within organized labor fighting for higher pay, lower health care costs, better working conditions for Texans, I see a much needed, gap that needs to be filled. And so, hey, look, very astute to how the political process works. Organized labor has a legislative agenda every single year. I'll give you a specific example. We have fought for years to try to pass a veterans bill in the state of Texas, and you would think like, oh, they're asking for some some large ask. We've been asking that they legislate requiring job sites to post notices. Just post a notice right next to your workers' compensation posting, informing veterans of the benefits available to them through the state. You have some benefits available through the Veterans Land Board, different stuff like that. We have not been able to pass that legislation, and it's a wake-up call to the fact that working people issues and normal Texan issues are not of any interest to the people currently running our state legislature.
It's interesting, Mr. Velez, when I was looking at some of the issues that you would like to bring up, one of them was protecting the American dream, and I was curious what that means, and also good functional government for the people. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So when you look at the American dream, my mother cleaned hotel rooms. She made $4.25 an hour, trying to raise a family on $4. She was able to get a good union job, quadrupled her pay, was able to move out of an apartment and buy a home. She was able to retire at a decent age. She was in her late 50s. To me, that's the American dream. People don't want a handout. They want the opportunity to work their way up in society. When I look now, I see kids graduating from college and they have student debt they could never pay off. More and more jobs are being shipped overseas. We have this ever-growing threat of artificial intelligence replacing, normal working-class people. So when manufacturing was attacked in this country, people moved into the service industry. But now the service industry is being attacked. And so there's only so many jobs. And if we don't do something to protect normal working-class people, then there will be nothing left. And so I believe that for the American dream to exist, you have to have good-paying jobs. You have to have funded schools so that people can educate themselves. You have to have a low barrier to entry for college education. And those are all things that when you look at the dysfunctional government that we have, instead of protecting like rural Texans from the exploitation of their groundwater, our government in its dysfunction is allowing data centers to be built. They're allowing billionaires to exploit the right to capture and dig wells that a normal Texan could never dig. And those are things that I want to address for working
So how would you implement, in a very practical way, some of the solutions to the issues that you just brought up?
Sure. That's the beauty of the office of the lieutenant governor. The lieutenant governor prioritizes what legislation will move. And so I would prioritize bills that benefit working people, like state minimum wage. If a bill, were to be introduced to raise the state minimum wage, that would get a very low number, which would give it a very high priority in the Senate, make sure it's heard before some of the other bills. We work in a state with the 8th largest economy in the world, yet we have a minimum wage that's lower than 30 other states. We're still sitting at that $7.25 an hour. That's not even poverty. I mean, that's starvation.
Yeah. What? First of all, the lieutenant governor is arguably the most powerful person in the state in terms of politics. Why is that? Why is this $7 wage just can't get off the move?
I mean, if we're going to be honest, you have to look at the big money in politics. One big thing for me was running a campaign that wasn't funded by big corporate PAC donations. I think you have to follow the money. When you're funded by large special interests, then you have to respond to special interests. I'm running a campaign that's funded by normal everyday Texans, small dollar donations, organized labor, some groups that I align with their values. And so when you look at our current lieutenant governor, you're not going to be able to address working people issues because you've been bought by corporate America. And so it does not benefit these large multinational corporations to have to pay a higher wage, even though payroll only accounts for a small percentage of their total expenditures. We're focused on things like, permitting data centers that'll ruin our ground soil and hurt our farmland, instead of worrying about raising the state minimum wage so that single mom that's sitting on a disconnect notice can pay her light bill.
Some might say that this role, the lieutenant governor, is Frank was just saying, it is an extremely important role. We know that Texans usually vote in a more conservative way. You're essentially going up against a Goliath.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would you put yourself out there like that?
Sure. I have a great job. I love the work that I do in organized labor. But I look at the Texas that my children are walking into, and it's not the same Texas that I was walking into. So if you look back, in the early 2000s, even though we were still several years into Republican rule in the state of Texas, there was economic opportunity. Housing was affordable. Public school was decently funded. And now I look at what's left, and it's like after the 30 years of 27, 28, whatever, years of Republican rule, there are literally no opportunities for young people. This is not the Texas that I grew up in. When I look at the amount of hate and division out in the streets, I always laugh. I remember when I was a kid, I was in a garage. There were two men playing pool, and they were discussing Bill Clinton and his opponent. And I don't particularly remember which election that was, who his opponent was, but the funniest thing was they agreed to disagree. They laughed about it, and they kept playing pool. Nowadays, like anything you say that challenges the current regime is automatically a turnoff to anyone that's in the other political party. And I think we've done a really good job of dividing working class people against each other so they don't focus on the real issues.
Well, I hear a lot of issues coming here. Is there any one or two that are particularly on the plate?
So the economy is the biggest one. We have to raise wages, we have to lower housing costs, and we have to expand work opportunities for young people. And then the second one is going to be funding education. Eighth largest economy in the world. There's no reason when we've carried a surplus year after year that we shouldn't be able to fund public education. You look at the voucher scam that they just rolled out. Most of rural Texas do not have private schools. And so you took $1 billion out of public education when we could have raised teacher salaries. We could have funded teacher retirement. There's a million things that we could have done. And we shifted that money out so that we could pay a couple of our wealthy friends, education institutions. And so, look, we have to do better. I mean, we
But, Marcos, I got to say, that already happened. We are already here. The assisted voucher program, I know it's like I forget exactly what it's called, but essentially the voucher program is happening. So if you were to take into that role, we understand what everybody says about it, but it's that train is gone. How would you work within what's already happening to better the lives of Texans?
So when you look at jobs, first thing, we have to raise the state minimum wage, so prioritizing legislation that raises the minimum wage. When you look at apprenticeship programs that provide opportunities for young people, the lieutenant governor is over state funding for apprenticeship programs. When you look at lowering the cost of housing for people, that's through an expansion of affordable housing. And then when you look at the problem with education, there are revenue streams like the legalization of THC where we leave tons of money on the table, and that burden is passed down to homeowners instead of capitalizing on something that's already being consumed in the state, taxing it appropriately and ensuring that money is directed into public education. So we could explore additional revenue streams, but we have to have someone that's interested in focusing on fixing those issues, because as long as they stay broken, we have great points to campaign on. But the reality is I'm looking for solutions.
You have some fans out there. Says Marcos Velez is assistant to the director of District 13 of the United Steelworkers Union. You have some supporters from the USW listening and watching right now, Marcos.
Hey, that's awesome.
Okay. You mentioned the school voucher program in West Texas, or rural Texas, I should say. I don't know why when I think of rural Texas, I automatically think of West Texas. But one of the highlights of your campaign is the rural folks of Texas, which are such an important part of everything we do in Texas. Tell me more about your stance there.
So when you look at rural Texas, they get hit twice. They have some of the lower wages in the state because jobs aren't as easily available. And then when you also look at what they're dealing with, they have a lack of resources. It's harder for them to access a hospital. It's harder for them to find they have less opportunity all the way around. And so we have to invest in rural Texas. We have to ensure that when we raise wages that rural Texas doesn't get left behind. And we have to make sure that they have the same educational opportunities no matter where they live in the state. And so I think rural Texans are taken for granted, like many voters, because they generally vote conservatively. Then conservatives just take them for granted and they don't invest very much in their communities.
So what would you say to people or even business leaders who very much favor Texas's right to work, that essentially are looking at the laws and don't necessarily want increased labor costs?
So I would tell them productivity has not kept up, or wages have not kept up with productivity since the 60s. Texas has a very strong economy. A small increase in their cost of labor is not going to put them out of business. What they need to take into account is the more money that Americans have to spend in the economy, the better the economy does as a whole. And so they look at it like an increased cost. Obviously, they're going to try to get away with paying poverty-level wages, but a rising tide lifts all boats. And when working people have more disposable income, people at the lower end of the socioeconomic scale spend more of their money. So that's more money coming right back into their businesses.
Well, I do like that you are taking a position for seniors. You always look at me like that.
Seniors.
Seniors.
Senior citizens.
Those are my people. Tell me where you stand on where the seniors in Texas are.
Look, seniors in Texas should not have to be returning to the workforce due to climbing costs. I believe that people that work their entire life should be able to retire with dignity. I think when you look at the life expectancy of your average man in Texas sitting right at about 74 years old, they sell you this idea that you should work until you're 80, and they want you working past the point of your life expectancy. And so I believe that anyone that works a full-time job should be able to retire with dignity. I believe that soaring costs are forcing our seniors back into the workplace. I believe that concerns for their working children are driving them back into the workplace. And I believe that when you look at healthcare access and many of the things that our seniors need, we're failing them as a state. 8th largest economy in the world. I mean, it's disappointing. I think furthermore, seniors that live in rural Texas have an even harder time accessing health care because of, rural hospitals shutting down, lack of funding. And so imagine if you retired to rural Texas, we will say West Texas because that's what you consider. Yep. And you have to drive an hour to get to a hospital. I mean, it does. So fuel costs are higher. I mean, again, we have to do better by our seniors.
But, we're looking at a primary.
Yes, ma'am.
And so looking into the March Democratic primary, what makes you different from the other two candidates, your other opponents?
Sure. Hey, nothing against the candidates. I always tell people, it doesn't really matter who you vote for as long as you go vote. But I think the difference between me and the other two candidates is my lived experience. I am a working Texan. These things directly impact me. When you look at some of the other candidates on the ballot, I don't necessarily know that they live the same day-to-day life as working people, and I think that's why they have to do their research. But more importantly, my lived experience fighting in organized labor, I have delivered rather than just promised higher wages. I have delivered lower health care costs. I have delivered job opportunities, apprenticeship programs, access for women and other marginalized communities that would normally be boxed out of industrial and manufacturing settings. And so where a lot of candidates would talk about they want to do things or they've tried to do things, I've actually done them.
And just to clarify, the other two Democratic candidates for Lieutenant Governor of Texas are State Representative Vicki Goodwin and software company manager Courtney Head.
A couple of more comments from YouTube. I want this guy as my lieutenant governor and Tallarico as my governor. Okay. And then text saying, I'm a Republican, but I like this guy for lieutenant governor. So
that's awesome.
Go get him, Marcos.
Any last thoughts, Marcos? If somebody's listening right now and they say this guy doesn't have a chance, Democrats in Texas, are not winning elections, what do you say to that?
So look, there's always a chance. Look, people didn't think David had a chance when he picked up that rock and that sling, right? But out here fighting, because whether I win this election or not, I believe it's important to pull politicians in towards our message. No one was talking about working people. No one was focusing on working people issues. Now, all of a sudden, every politician that stands up and gives a stump speech, they never intended to run for office. They're a normal person. They care about normal people. This has been my message since day one, fighting for, labor. But I do think it's very important for people to research their candidates. And if we want change, we have to do something different. So I'd encourage everybody to go to velezfortexas.com, check out our campaign. And if it's something you can align with, hey, reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you.
Well, thank you for coming by today.
Marco Velez is a candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Marcos, again, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Appreciate you guys.
And coming up, we're going to head out to visit the 2026 Winter Olympics that are taking place.
Live
Ooh. With our very own Houston Public Media Senior Director of Digital Operations. We'll be back after the break.
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro Fare System will replace the old Metro Q Fare Card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
You also help us tell local stories and share voices that define Greater Houston. No matter who this gift is for, your support powers Houston Public Media. Be one of the 100. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
What I've always tried to do in my music is just tell the truth.
Who am I really?
Get into the minds of some of the world's most creative people.
Totally exploring their ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you everything.
The Arts Hour brings you the finest arts and culture conversation from across the BBC and beyond.
It's the variety. That's the world that interests me.
The Arts Hour from the BBC.
Fridays at 10 p.m. and Saturdays at 11 p.m. on News 88.7.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider committed to handling claims to help injured workers get back to work. More at texasmutual.com/mutual care. Support comes from the Houston Symphony, presenting Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet, Sofia Gubadulina in Tempest Praisins, and Scriabin's Poem of Ecstasy at Jones Hall, February 20th through 22nd. Tickets at houstonsymphony.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
The 2026 Winter Olympics are currently taking place through February 22nd in Milan and Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy, marking the first time the Games are co-hosted by two cities. Houston Public Media Senior Director of Digital Operations Mark Norris flew all the way to Italy to attend this year's Games. He joins us now to tell us more about what he's seen, what he's doing, what he's eating. Tell all the things, Mark. Tell us all the things. Mark, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, Mark.
Hey there. How's it going?
It's going great. So first of all, where exactly are you in Italy?
I am standing outside the brand new hockey venue that they built and got open about 3 weeks ago. And in about 45 minutes, the USA and Switzerland are going to play a women's hockey game. So once we wrap up here, I'm walking inside and watching hockey.
So are you in, is that in Milan itself?
Yes, we are in Milan. Milan is hosting ice hockey, figure skating, and speed skating.
So are you going to venture to Cortina or some of these other venues while you're there, or are you going to stay basically in Milan?
I'm going to stay in Milan. To give everyone an idea, basically it would be like if Houston was Milan, the mountain venues would be like going to Dallas or like the Texas-Oklahoma border. So it's not really easy to bounce between all of the other locations. So a lot of folks are either splitting their time or they're like me, they're just parking themselves in one city.
And is it cold? You are at the Winter Olympics.
It's pretty much been in the 40s most of the time I've been here. So not too cold, but I mean, I've been wearing a heavyweight jacket the entire time, and it's been just about perfect.
So, Mark, what has been the vibe like there? Because, you know, we're seeing a lot of news, unfortunately, what happened with Lindsey Vonn. We've had some real upsets, but the USA has also had some big wins, for example, with our winter, our figure skaters. So talk to us a little bit about what's the vibe like there.
The vibe has been really good. Talking to some of the folks who've been to other Olympics, they said they love this one because the people of Italy have been very welcoming. There's been a chance for a lot of the European countries to travel here, so they've been able to attend and show support for their country. But also, there are a lot of Americans here, too. Mm-hmm. So overall, the vibe has been really good. I was at the figure skating team event last night. There were a ton of U.S. fans in there. It was extremely dramatic. It literally came down to the last skate. So I don't know if you could ask for much more than that. So we're only 3 days in, and it's been an exciting start and really good vibes in the city.
And what about just out and about, like the cafes, the restaurants, the clubs? I know you probably go home and go to bed every night, but
sure, it's going to bed every night.
Is it kind of a fun party vibe too?
It's been really lively, especially during the day. Like I'd say the peak vibes are kind of around like 5 or 6 when they have their version of a happy hour. when people are outside, because it's warm enough where you can stand outside in a coat and have a drink. They'll stand outside the cafes. The cafes will fill in. To me, that's when it's really the liveliest, kind of those late afternoon, early evening hours when people are packed and really either they're coming from a venue that they saw an event at or they're doing something before they head to a venue in the evening.
So, Mark, we want to know about all the celebrity sightings. Have you seen Snoop Dogg covering for NBC?
I have not, but this is true. Last night, I ran into Johnny Weir in the concourse, and we chatted for a little bit. It was very nice.
Oh, my gosh, you ran into Johnny Weir. Was Tara Lipinski around?
No. So in between sessions of the figure skating, I was doing a lap just to stretch my legs, and he kind of walked out of the holding room where NBC was. So I ran into him and complimented him on his outfit, and then we chatted for a minute, and then he had to get back to work because he's back on the air like in 5 minutes. So it was good. That was a nice encounter. So that's probably the biggest celebrity I've seen.
Is this your first Olympics to attend in person?
It is. This is a bucket list thing for me to do. I've always wanted to go to the Olympics, and I thought about pulling the trigger when they were in Vancouver, but I was like right out of college and couldn't quite swing it. So being able to do this, Italy, it's pretty easy, if you're an English speaker, to get around and to know what to do. Of course, all the food, the wine, the people. So it's been an excellent trip so far. The vibes have been really good.
The fashion, I mean, that's one of the things
Milan is huge.
That we've been really seeing the different, obviously Ralph Lauren always is the designer usually for the USA. Can you talk to us about some of the fashion that you've seen?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the fashion houses have partnered with the Olympics and have like special limited edition items.
Yes.
The biggest fashions, honestly, have been the official Olympic gear itself. So there's a main, they call it like a mega store. It's in the Duomo Plaza, which is kind of like the heart of Milan. And it's an hour-long line just to get inside because they like restrict the crowds. Mm-hmm. So getting in there, like you need to carve out, that took me 2 hours start to finish from the time I got in line to the time I walked out with my stuff. And getting some of that is some of like the hottest merch in the city, just as hot as the Ralph Lauren U.S. stuff or anything else.
Yes, the cashmere.
Hey, Mark, speaking of crowds, we have a viewer question. Mike from Cyprus says, my wife watches TikTok, and she said there are protests going on about the U.S. in Milan. I'm wondering if that's true. Have you seen anything?
So there were anti-ice protests outside the opening ceremony, which I did attend, but since the opening ceremony was very involved, I went in very early. So apparently that happened after I went inside the venue. But that's been the only one that I've seen or heard of. I will say the American athletes at the events I've been to have not been booed. And not just the people I'm sitting around are from all over. So if there's ill feelings toward the American government, at least the people at the games are not taking that out on the athletes.
That's good.
Wonderful.
So are you going to try to venture to, do people like go to Milan and see a few Olympic things and then go off to Venice and Rome and or do they stay put?
A lot of the folks are, just because it's so spread out, if they are adding a trip here, they're going up to some of the mountain venues. There was one of the people I met and was sat next to at the opening ceremonies. He rented a car yesterday and he drove out to one of the venues and he's going to be out there for a few days. So a lot of it's like that. But honestly, most of the people I've talked to, everyone's staying in Milan just because it's easy to get around. There's public transport to all the venues. And of course, there's all the restaurants and bars and shopping. So it really makes for an ideal Olympic experience.
So real quick, Google Girl wants to know just what I was thinking. What was Johnny Weir wearing when you saw him, Mark?
He's wearing like this dark black kind of head to toe outfit. And it was like bedazzled in like diamonds or imitation diamonds. I mean, very eye catching. So when I saw him and I was like, hey, you're looking great. And then he was like, thanked me. And then we started talking. And he's like, you would never guess how heavy like these pants are right now. Cause they were like, there's some on the top, but really like most of them were like on his pants. So it was I don't know how, I'm sure they showed it all on TV, but him just walking in person, I mean, you definitely caught your eye. That's how I saw him. So
Wonderful.
Dressed to the nines for the final.
Love it. Mark Norris is the Senior Director of Digital Operations right here at Houston Public Media. Mark, thank you for taking the time to join us all the way from Milan.
Absolutely. Thank you. And be sure to let the bosses know that since I appeared, I'll be filing some expenses just for fun.
We'll mention it. Have a good time. Get home safely.
All right. Take care, guys.
Yep, and that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to us today on Hello Houston. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. We're also going to be discussing why the Trump administration is wanting voter rolls from several U.S. states. This is News 88.7. Have a great Monday.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
It's easy to suffer from information overload these days. Social media posts that just keep scrolling, bite-sized headlines sent to your phone and even your watch.